Welcome back to Coach Hall Writes. Today's video is video 2 in a two-part video series that I'm doing here on my channel. In day one's video, we looked at the prompt for President Bush's speech after Hurricane Katrina. In that video, we broke down the prompt, we did a couple pre-reading questions, and I showed you how I annotate the passage. If you missed that video, it will be linked in the description box below. Also, if you want the documents that I'm showing during this video, you can find the link there in the description as well. For today's video, we're going to be looking at a sample essay that has a score of a 120, and we're going to talk about why it gets that score and also how to improve it. And just a reminder, this is not an official College Board prompt, nor are these official College Board samples. These are just things that I've created on my own to help my students, and I thought it might help others as well. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this sample. Just FYI, I tried to color code to make it a little bit easier. So the blue is going to be the thesis or language that relates to the thesis for this particular essay. Yellow is going to be stronger verbs that help convey the line of reasoning or rhetorical choices. And then green is going to be commentary. I have found that highlighting can help students better understand their proportions of evidence and commentary. So if you're struggling with your essay writing, one thing I recommend you try to do is to choose one color to highlight evidence and one color for commentary. This can help you see the proportions because usually if an essay is going to score a 120, there is commentary present, yes, but that commentary is either not abundant enough or what's being said is limited or maybe simplistic. Also, for the record, when I highlighted this, I tried to highlight rather sparingly so that it wouldn't be overwhelming and too difficult to look at. So if I missed something with the highlighting, I apologize in advance. Let's go ahead and look at the intro. I encourage my students to write a relatively short intro. Worst case scenario, I want to see just a thesis. However, if possible, I want to see one or two sentences before the thesis to kind of set up that rhetorical situation. This intro says, in 2005, one of the most powerful hurricanes on record ravaged the Gulf Coast, killing thousands and displacing 1 million people. So that information came from the prompt itself. It is okay to repurpose that information as needed and put it in your own words. Now, here's the thesis. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, President George W. Bush acknowledges the magnitude of the tragedy and then provides examples of strength, kindness, and resilience in order to convey his message about the indomitable nature of the American spirit. So you can see here that we have the rhetorical situation. We know who our speaker is. Technically, it doesn't say the exact audience, but like we talked about yesterday, it's the American public. We do have rhetorical choices, though, and that's going to help us have a defensible thesis. So for the purposes of this particular thesis statement, we have verbs like acknowledges and provides. Those are going to signal the choices. So I look at this thesis and I would assume that the first paragraph is going to be about how he acknowledges the magnitude of the tragedy. That's something that he intentionally does. And I would assume that the second paragraph is going to be about the examples that he provides. Technically, to be defensible, we just want to see rhetorical choices, but I tell my students it's really two parts, rhetorical choices and then the message, argument, or purpose. And so you can see that we have the specific message here. Don't just say, in order to convey his message, actually tell us what the message is. Now, in the prompt that we looked at yesterday, it just said convey his message. So we had to figure out what the message was. Sometimes the message or argument or purpose is provided for you, in which case it's okay to use that wording, but it generally helps if you dig a little bit deeper and use more specific phrasing than what the prompt provides. Now let's look at this first paragraph here. I'm going to be honest, the length of this paragraph to me is a little bit of a red flag. It just seems a little bit short. So we have a topic sentence, which is good. We want to have a claim that tells the main idea of our paragraph. So it says, President Bush begins his speech by describing the horrors of Hurricane Katrina. I like the use of the word begins, and I highlighted describing the horrors of Hurricane Katrina because that links back to the thesis. So we have a topic sentence here. We have the what he did. Now, to make this stronger, we might want to actually include a what and a why. So we have what he did. He described the horrors of Hurricane Katrina, but we don't really have a why he did it. Was it to acknowledge the loss? Was it to inspire the public? Why is he doing this? So that's a tip for you. If you want more help with topic sentences, I do have a separate video all about that, and it has sentence frames in it. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. Next, we have by noting that citizens are grieving the loss of loved ones, Bush emphasizes how cruel and wasteful the storm was. So we see some of the language from the passage there. We could have put quotation marks around cruel and wasteful if we wanted to. I like the use of the verb emphasizes. So we're starting to dig into more of what he does, but you'll notice that we don't really have much textual evidence here. And as it continues, we have very little commentary. So this paragraph has a good idea, but the execution is not strong enough, in my opinion. And please know that I wrote this, so I'm not trashing anybody else's work here. I'm using this for demonstration purposes. So it says, by saying that the area is not back to normal, so we have a bit of a paraphrase there. He reminds the American public that there is work to be done and they need to help. Okay, that's all very true. So we have what he does in a paraphrase, and we have a little bit of why he does it, reminding them that there's work to be done and they need to help. That's maybe a little bit of commentary, but we see a stronger attempt at commentary in the next sentence. This helps him convey his message about the American spirit. Okay, good. So we're connecting back to the prompt here with message. So we have what the message is. It's something to do with the American spirit. More specifically, it's that Americans aren't perfect, but overall they are kind and strong when it counts. Okay, this is true, but I feel like the paragraph ends too abruptly. So we want to ask ourselves a couple questions. Number one, why is this message helpful in this situation? So we know it's the aftermath of a massive hurricane. So, why is this particular message important to those that were devastated by the hurricane and the general American public who was not directly affected? Why is this message appropriate in this moment? And why is President Bush the best person to be delivering this message? Well, let's think about it. He's the president. People turn to leaders in a time of despair. When they need guidance, they need support. So there's more that could be said here about why he is acknowledging the tragedy and why this message is important for this particular situation. Here's what I like to see about the paragraph. I like to see that there are some references to the text. It might not be direct quote, it might be paraphrase, but we're at least acknowledging what the text says and we have a connection to the message. So we have a start here. This is workable. We can improve this. And if you want to see how to improve it, keep watching the video because I'm going to show you how. So let's look at the second body paragraph because if this paragraph is really strong, it's possible that it could elevate the score. So I like the topic sentence. I like the beginning where it says, after acknowledging the tragedy, because that's creating some linking language. So we're referencing main idea one there, and then we're leading into main idea two, which is that he lists good things that have happened since the hurricane. Now, here's my teacher pet peeve. I do not like the word good, and I do not like the word things because I think we could use better word choice there. I know it's hard to come up with stronger words sometimes when you're writing a timed essay, but try to avoid good, bad, thing, really, a lot, even huge. For some reason, huge does not strike me as very specific either. So, anyway, that first sentence there is a topic sentence that conveys the main idea and it links to the previous main idea, which is good. However, we could improve our word choice there. I like the verb lists. I think that's important. We also see in the next sentence provides. So we do have verbs in the active voice instead of is listing or is providing. So that's a plus. Notice though that it says many examples of how people from all walks of life have come together to help each other. That's okay, except for the fact that we don't really ever have proof of that claim. So instead of saying that he provides these examples and then moving on to something else, we want to talk about what these examples are. Because if I'm just reading this essay, I know that he apparently provided examples, but I don't know what those examples are. So we want to make sure that we take the time to explain not only that he provides examples, but what are the examples and why do these examples matter? Because when he was constructing this speech, he had to figure out what is going to be the best example I could give to prove that the American spirit is strong. If I want to motivate and comfort the people, what is the best example I could give? So, since speakers tailor their message to their audience, we want to look very closely at the choices they make. And in this case, the choice is providing examples. So, we want to ask ourselves not only what are the examples, but why these examples? So, I think the pacing here is just a little bit too quick. I do like this attempt here at connecting it to the message because it talks about the American spirit. which was brought up in the previous paragraph. But again, this is too rushed right now. The next sentence says, knowing that there are millions of people hurting. Okay, so I like that as linking language. I like that it's referencing the rhetorical situation. President Bush addresses those affected by the storm. Okay, so we see a bit of a shift. We're trying to acknowledge what happens next in the speech, which is okay. But again, we're moving too quickly because notice that we made a claim and we didn't really provide any evidence at all for it or much commentary. And now we're already talking about something else. And that's something that I see a lot in essays that tend to score on the lower half of row B, evidence and commentary. Sometimes we try to tackle too much too quickly. And this is a perfect example of that. So we see addresses, comforts, closes. So we're shifting again. This to me is a paragraph that has good ideas, but the execution's not very strong. There is some commentary at the end, though. We got a kind of like a laundry list of what he does in this speech, but now we have a little bit of commentary. So let's look at that. It says, since this tragedy was all over the news, okay, good. So that's the person thinking about the rhetorical situation. The public likely wants to help contribute goods, money, and more. Listing the good that has come out of the tragic situation helps Bush convey his message that the American spirit is resilient. Okay, so remember in our pre-reading from yesterday's video, we talked about what the speaker needs, believes, and values, and what the audience needs, believes, and values. This is how we can start to incorporate that in a meaningful way. So this is a good start with some commentary. However, if you look at the paragraph as a whole, we save the commentary for the end. Actually, if I scroll up here, you could see that happening in both paragraphs. We don't want our commentary to just be at the end. We want it to be woven throughout the paragraph. So this to me represents good ideas that need a little help with the execution. However, this is fixable. So let me show you my scoring notes. And again, if you want access to this, the document is in the description box below. So we already talked about why it's a defensible thesis. We have the choices. Remember, choices is what the writer is doing. So strong verbs count. Acknowledges, provides examples. That's going to be the rhetorical choices for this. And there's a specific message. So we've got the thesis. That was fine. Like we said before, the topic sentence establishes the main idea for body paragraph 1, but it doesn't address the why. It just says what he did, not why he did it. And remember, we want to be thinking not just about the message, but also the purpose. Analysis requires commentary, and that's the why. Why did he make these choices for this audience on this occasion? You'll also notice that it talks about how much of the paragraph is paraphrases bordering on summary. The last two sentences could be combined with a colon. If you want help with advanced punctuation, I have some videos about that as well. Learning about colons and dashes can help your writing style. And as a bonus, if you're taking the SAT or ACT, if you understand how that punctuation works, you can improve your score. So if you want help with colons and dashes, check out the description box as well. But overall, body paragraph 1 does have a little bit of commentary, but not as much as we would like to see. We already talked about the phrase good things and how we could choose stronger words there. We also want textual evidence of what those acts are. And then we talked about how there's commentary at the end of the paragraph, but that commentary could arguably be expanded. We also could potentially have it woven throughout the paragraph sooner as well. And then just know that this essay did not have a conclusion, and that's totally okay. The lack of a conclusion does not affect the evidence and commentary score. So just as a tip for you, if you are running out of time on any timed essay for AP, I encourage you to focus on your body paragraphs, specifically the quality of your evidence and commentary, as opposed to a conclusion. All right, so now let's look at the improved essay. So I kept the same colors, however, they mean different things in this essay. So I apologize for changing up the color coding, but I wanted to emphasize different aspects of this particular essay. So blue is going to be references to the rhetorical situation because I wanted to show you how we can weave that in and incorporate some of those pre-reading questions. So that's going to be the blue. Also, if you like some of the references to the rhetorical situation and you want more help with that, I have a video about rhetorical analysis sentence frames, and you could use those sentence frames for pretty much any rhetorical analysis essay. So I would definitely encourage you to check out that video as well. I'll link it in the description box below. The green is going to be commentary, and then yellow is advanced punctuation, just because I wanted to point out a couple places where we could use that advanced punctuation effectively. So the intro is the same, so I'm gonna just scroll down here. You can already tell that the paragraphs are noticeably longer, but please know that a long paragraph doesn't automatically mean that the essay is going to score well. It's really about the quality of the analysis. So let's look at some of the changes that were made in this particular paragraph in order to strengthen it. You can see that the topic sentence is still the same, so we don't have the why there, it's still just the what. So that would be one more thing that we could improve. In fact, let's go ahead and change that now, shall we? So let's go ahead and add in the why. So in order to support the, let's say, the grieving American public. Okay? Maybe not the best purpose there, but it's a start. So now we have the why. So there you go. That's a quick tip for you. You can include the what and why in your topic sentence. If you're writing on the exam and you're writing in pen and you want to add something like that, just go ahead and add one of those little like carrots. That's what we called them when I was in elementary school, or triangles, and just kind of write it really small above. Just make sure it's clear where it goes. You can add in, you could write in the margin as needed. I've even seen students use an asterisk and add it to the end. Readers will read whatever you try to add in. They will not read crossouts. So don't worry about small edits on your paper. It's okay. We know it's a rough draft. Okay, so here in this version, I actually added in the quotation marks around the words cruel and wasteful because those were in the passage itself. I tend to prefer it that way, but I know not everybody does. And then you can see that we have this sentence here. So this is new. While the audience, the American public, is well aware of the level of destruction they witnessed by watching the events on TV, those experiencing this tragedy firsthand are dealing with a profound loss that few can truly empathize with. Okay, so the wording in the beginning there is a tad bit awkward, I must admit. However, I like the attempt at acknowledging the audience, specifically the fact that there are sort of two audiences. We have the people who saw it on TV, but maybe are not directly affected, and then those who are living it firsthand. So again, we're referencing the rhetorical situation and incorporating that into our analysis. As president, in this case, we're acknowledging the speaker's credentials. And I think that's important. So, regardless of who your speaker is, if they're an activist, a lawyer, a president, presumably there's something about their role or their credentials that impacts their speech. Why is President Bush the best person to give this speech? Well, it was a tragedy that affected the American people, and he's president. So, it would make sense that he's going to give this address. So, we see that analysis here. As president, it is important that President Bush acknowledge their suffering. Then we have the word because. If you are struggling with commentary, use the word because. So the first part of this sentence tells us what he did. He had to acknowledge their suffering. But now we need the analysis, the why. Because the victims of Hurricane Katrina have lost everything, and you could read the sentence there. Use the word because to explain why the person is making those choices, and that's going to improve your commentary. In fact, ask yourself why, write the word because, and then ask yourself why again. Sometimes we need to really extend our analysis. So sometimes I joke with my students that it's channeling their inner toddler. If you've ever been around a little kid who keeps asking you why, it gets kind of annoying, I must admit. But if you have to keep asking yourself why did they do this? Why does it matter? Why is it helpful to the audience? Then you're going to be expanding your commentary. So you can see we have quite a lot of commentary there. Then we have some of the same sentences as before. Notice here in yellow, we see American spirit with a colon. So we're joining those two sentences. And I personally think it reads a little bit better. Same exact info, just better punctuation. So you notice that in body paragraph 1, we made a couple significant, meaningful improvements based on the feedback from the previous essay. So same ideas here, just more commentary, adding in some advanced punctuation, and just trying to develop those ideas even more. So personally, I think it is noticeably improved from the first attempt. Now, if we look at body paragraph 2, you're going to notice that it's much longer. I'll be honest, this is a bigger jump in terms of quality. I wanted to show you how we could take the feedback on the previous essay that we looked at, where the paragraph was underdeveloped and it was kind of listing too many things, didn't have enough commentary, how we could keep those ideas but expand them. So again, the blue is going to be references to the rhetorical situation. So we have that same sentence from before, after acknowledging the tragedy. I like connecting main ideas like that. I think it helps the line of reasoning. I also like the reference to convey a message of hope. Because remember, the prompt asked about the message, so we want to make sure that that is clear in each of our body paragraphs. Now you can see here that we've added in specific examples. So before it just talked about how Bush included examples. Now we actually have the example of Steve Scott. And we have this a positive phrase, if you will, or non-restrictive clause where it tells us who he is. That's important too. So it says first responder with the Biloxi Fire Department. So offsetting information with commas or even dashes can be advanced punctuation that helps the readability of your essay. So you'll notice that it talks about including this quote from Scott. So we know that Bush did that. And in day one's video, we were talking about why he included that. So we want to actually put that idea in our paper. Why did he include the quote? Well, it adds credibility to the speech because this person experienced Hurricane Katrina directly. So I hope this helps to reinforce the fact that annotating before you start writing can be really helpful because you can incorporate your annotations into your essay. You can also see that there's more references to the message about the American spirit and the purpose, trying to inspire the American people that are listening. And because we said that Bush included multiple examples, we want to perhaps give more than one example. So here we have a reference to the nurses. Notice that it's offset by dashes, which makes it a little bit more advanced punctuation. And then we have the purpose here in order to underscore the hope in the midst of darkness. So we see a reference to purpose and to message. But it's also the beginning of some commentary there because it's telling us not only what he did earlier in the sentence, but why he's doing it. We see another reference to message there. So notice that we've had a couple different references to the message. I personally think that's important for a timed essay that's like this, where it's viewed as a rough draft, because you want to make sure that you are fully addressing the prompt. So you can see that we had message up here at the top where it says message of hope. And then now we have message of strength of the American spirit. And then we have message of the strength of the American spirit. So it's phrased in two different ways. But if I were to look at this paragraph, I would know very clearly that we're analyzing message. And I personally think that's important. I think sometimes as students are writing, they focus so much on the choices, but don't necessarily connect it to the message, argument, or purpose. And if you look at the AP Lang rubric, appropriately connecting to the message, argument, or purpose is going to improve your score. And you can see that this paragraph is noticeably much longer, so it still has the same original ideas. It's just nowhere near as rushed. And this paragraph is quite long. So for this reason, I think for many students, 2 body paragraphs is quite reasonable. If you choose to do 3, that's okay. This particular paragraph is long and perhaps it could have been divided into 2, but we're kind of analyzing one section together. And so this paragraph is a little bit longer, especially now that we've added in more commentary. We've got that extended analysis, which overall helps the quality of the essay. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down to the scoring notes, and it talks about how this essay is improved because there's more specifics. We have the because clause. Remember, if you're struggling with commentary, add the word because and lengthen your claim. It gets to the why. We also talked about including specific quotes as evidence and perhaps including some advanced punctuation, as well as connecting to the rhetorical situation, one component of that being the message itself. All right, there you have it. We took a potentially lower scoring essay and talked about how to improve it. And then I showed you the revision that was noticeably stronger, and we talked about why it was stronger. If you want access to these materials, there is a link in the description box below. I will also link those videos that I mentioned to help you if you need additional help with rhetorical analysis. If you found this video helpful, please do me a huge favor and give the video a thumbs up. And make sure you're following here on YouTube because I'll be going live once a week, if not more, as we prepare for the upcoming 2023 AP Lang exam. And I would love it if you would hop on a live and ask any questions you have about AP Lang. If you're studying for the upcoming exam, best of luck. And until next time, happy writing.